Today is a very important day. This day is extremely important because Inertia was trying to have this particular meeting for the last 4 months. I did have my struggles to get through this meeting because the environment in the country over the last 4 months, and especially in the capital, has not been very conducive. I need to make this statement because I need to make my friends over here understand that the discussion and debates are on silly issues today. But core issues faced by the Indian economy are completely disaddressed by all concerned. And we are going to be chief culprits if we continue to do this drag for the next 3 months. Luckily, we have some support. And this is fate and destiny, I always call it. It has nothing to do. I always call India as an in spite of economy, not because of. So the fate and destiny is that we have, this is my assessment, and I hope my assessment goes right. Mostly I get it right. And there is a man called P.K. Sinha who has become Secretary Power. And my meeting with him, because I was not able to see eye to eye with the previous secretary and I never liked him. Inertia did not interview him at all. And definitely not the power minister called Mr. Sushil Kumar Shinde. He was completely blacklisted by us. We never carried any interview of this man. Okay. But today I'm a little bit, having a soft corner for Scindia because this position is not a very enviable position. You can't undo what has happened for 7 years before that. Okay. So the responsible ministers and head of affairs must have seen that this state should not have come. But that has come. A second thing is, Mr. Sinha is also in a very unenviable position because he has been given a cleanup job in a very short time. He has done a lot of things in 4 months, which I can say, but I don't want to say so many things what he has done. But it's too less a time and quick reaction doesn't come. It's not an antidote. It's not like you have a snake bite and you have anti-venom and then you are saved in the next 2 days. It's not going to happen here. You have to administer this dose for a longer duration, and that result will take some time for all of us in the power sector. So we thought, what are the core issues at this point of time? The core issues were the problems of ultra mega power. And we have excellent panel today, and I don't think you will ever get such a panel of different, I will say, variety and people who know the business for a long period of time in this country. So we will try to find out from them all the best. Before that, we will like to officially inaugurate because we are Indians. So we like to invoke the blessings of the supreme power or the cosmic forces. So may I request all our dignitaries on the dais to please come down and light the ceremonial lamp and declare the third UMPP Supercritical 2014 and Finergy 2014 of Inertia open. Please come Sir Prasad Saab, starting with Yogendra Prasad Ji, DK Jain Saab, NTPC, Sachdev Saab, the authority on coal, Rajiv Sachdeva, PVSN Murthy, Ethel Mehta. We have Shri Yogendra Prasad, who was the former CMD of NHPC, and we were, I would say we were honored to honor him recently at the Inertia Awards for lifetime achievement in the hydropower sector. Please give him a big hand. This was the 22nd November, and Yogendra Prasad Saab has done transforming work, and I don't think people have to set a work on his benchmark that he has set for hydropower. Because when in his time we were close to 30% share, today we have dropped down to 19%. And of course he has seen the power industry in the overall phase, while developing that. So today we will have his wisdom to begin with the keynote. He will be giving us the keynote to just fire the salvo today. Then we have Shri Sachdev ji. Sachdev ji is an old friend and he is one of the most wisest men in the power sector, and he will enlighten us on the coal issues. He is an expert on coal, and R.K. Sachdev ji is the president of the Coal Preparation Society of India and was former advisor to coal to the government of India. Please give him a big hand. Then we have my very good friend D.K. Jain, whom I always complain because D.K. Jain, I would love to have him in every conference of mine or seminar of mine, but he has been kind enough to come today because he's really busy even after his NTPC stint, and we are very thankful that he could spend time with us and come today. D.K. Jain sir was the former director technical of NTPC. Please give him a big hand. Then we have with me my colleague Shri Hetal Mehta. I'll give you an introduction. Hetal Mehta is an NIT Surat alumni, colleague of mine. We have founded an organization called Renewable Energy Promotion Association for promoting renewables. I'm the president. He's my joint president there. In addition to that, a highly active personality based in Surat, is one of the founder members of the Southern Gujarat Chamber of Commerce. He is also the president of Surat Engineering Vikas Association, which is supporting us in some way today. And we have worked together on so many issues. And he's come all the way from Surat to be with us. He's always a regular in most of our conclaves, and we're working together as NITians, I would say, on the issues of energy, power and infrastructure. Please give him a big hand. Then we have another great friend of mine, somebody with whom I share a lot of my, I would say thinking, and also a kind of a soul-to-soul contact. Rajiv Srivastava, he was the former executive director, ROD division in BHEL, and he was the man instrumental in moving the solar thermal and solar issues in the past, and he's very active even today, and he's on several areas. He's today involved in financing of renewable energy, in addition to looking at solar in a big way. He is a big supporter of solar. At the same time, he has seen it all. He knows the coal issues. He has seen the entire power sector issues, and his wisdom is required for this forum. Please give him a big hand. Then on the extreme right, we have another eminent personality, Mr. P.V. Murthy, who has been associated with Inertia since its birth, and he has been a very good supporter of our cause. He is one of our team men who gives his effort and time as a think tank. And P.V. Murthy has served companies like Alstom in the past and retired as vice president in Voith Hydro. He has been a man from TND, Hydro, and both the issues he is very strong on, and overall power sector issues. He is a man who has seen it and been there. And we need his wisdom as well today. Please welcome P.V. Murthy. A word of thanks to my partners today, the two companies, because I would not have been able to do this meeting without them. First is Jindal Power Limited. Would have loved to have R.S. Sharma ji today because he wanted to come, but because of the busy schedule. But we have people from Jindal. May we have their hands. We have some young people from Jindal, and I tell you, I must congratulate this company. I saw their project management software. I tell you, what they've done is absolutely world-class work. And this is completely indigenously developed by them. So please give a big hand to Jindal Power Limited. Then we must thank the support from NTPC. We have Jain Saab. We did not have AK Jha because he had to go to one of the sites because NTPC is under tremendous duress to still complete a lot of things over the next 3 months. So I think this pressure will remain. But NTPC is an organization which I admire. I am very sorry that in the ultra mega policy, none of us in the country, including the government, ever thought that NTPC must have a mandatory role of a percentage, and that we missed the bus because of this issue. So we will discuss this, why this has happened also, and we'll take the help of Jain Saab to understand this, And definitely, we have some friends from BHEL, I must recognize, which has been a major supporter. Unfortunately, they are going through some kind of, I tell you, financial crisis, I must say that. So their logo is not here. So I would have loved their logo, but their people are here. We have 2 BHEL people. Maybe we'd like to look at them. We have Mr. Maiti, who is the executive director, sir. Technical services. So we are very thankful that they have come here. Please give them a big hand. They are part of us today. So BHEL is another friendly company. We have fought issues like My God, I have a friend. I think I should get him on the top. Sir, you must walk on the dais straight away, even if I don't have. This is Colonel Khera, one of my closest friends. We are on the board of, I am on the board of only one company, but he is my partner on the board. Please come, sir. You are a neutral party. Please come, sir. Please come, sir. So, Colonel Khera is a man typically who has seen the telecom. I tell you, I'm working with him in a way as independent director in one of the companies called BS Limited, where we are transforming the company from a telecom to a power sector. In fact, we have done it. We have successful that a 500 crores entity. In my time, the last 1.5 years or so, I've seen it coming to a 2,000 crores turnover. So it's a small and medium enterprises to becoming a major player in the this thing. And the Sholapur transmission line link, which you have seen the Power Grid doing, the role of BS Limited and Patel Engineering, the two companies. We have also Mr. Colonel Khosla from Patel Engineering. Please give him also a big hand. They have been able to bring the national grid on, that we are really going towards this national grid. June, July, we will have. I'll tell you, there is some history to this as well. We wrote an article when the grid failed called Crooks of Powerpur, like the Granks of Vasepur. That was my cow story. It hit very hard and a lot of people were unhappy at the power grid. But now we are delivering a story that how from that situation the change has happened. That because our entire story was behind that what we have not done, that we did not connect the southern grid to the rest of the country. That has been achieved. So somewhere we are, everything is not hunky-dory and bad. People are still working. So I'm going to now do a positive feature on them, that okay, now you have done it, so you'll get it. So our job is simple. If you don't do it, then we'll criticize. If you do it, we'll praise. So there's no option. People cannot complain that why you are making a noise. So that is my job. That's my team's job. I'm forced to do it, right? And it is in the good of the public interest that we have to do it. We can't be keeping quiet as a media. Maybe the other media does it, but I'm sorry. I love to call our type of B2B publishing like Inertia as cottage media. So cottage industries never close. So we are there forever. So we are happy to say that. Now, with this brief, I want to, put up some figures, and call Prasad Saab on that issue. See, today, when I was going through, I saw there is a little bit of information dichotomy between the Central Statistical Organization's data and even the Ministry of Power data. See, one says that we are at 228 gigawatt. Of course, the figure is 30th September 2013. Okay. The other says that in the 31st March 2013, we were already at 236 gigawatt. That is the Central Statistic Organization. So they have written 2012, and I think it's a typographical error. So it cannot be. So it is 2013. So when I see this kind of an information problem within major, I would say, information providers in the country, I get flabbergasted that what is happening. So let us know the actual gigawatts that are installed in the country. This was one of the things that I saw. The other interesting thing I saw, that I keep comparing India, China, although I don't love that comparison in the normal sense, but we have to compare and find out some kind of ways of benchmarking. So one of the benchmarking is, as on date, today, the Indians are average consumption per capita has reached about 929 units per capita. For that of China, it is 2200 per capita. So that is what it is. Now I'll give you the figures of GDP. We are now 2 trillion and the Chinese are 7 trillion plus, 7.9 trillion. Right, so just a small, I would say, indicator for what's happening, right? Percentage of share of coal-based power plant, in that India 54%, China roughly 60%. So not much of a difference, What is the capacity installed in India? Let's take 240 gigawatt. That is what I believe is there already. And because we have our own research data, it's fine-tuning. We are coming close to 239, 240. And what is China's data? It is close to 10 lakh gigawatt. So we see that entire thing. But when you talk about efficiency, the plants, and this, I think this audience must recognize, the average plant load factor in the country is 75% for all major stations, especially of NTPC, because they are predominant operators. But on an average also, we are at the 72 to 75% level. But many of the subcritical large capacity plants of NTPC are running above 90%. Right? Many of them even recorded 95% PLF. So please give a big hand to NTPC and also BHL, because it's their machines. Right? So now come to China. And this was my experience in 2009 when I met Yantai Power. which is an operator which is double the size of NTPC. They have about 60 gigawatt of operational plants. Now they are about 80 gigawatts. At that time, they told me their average plant load factor was 558%. And I think the CA has come out with the data of a little better, saying 62% or something. So not much difference, So that's what it is. So we should know the energy efficiency factor of operating power plant and putting it to the grid. India is way ahead of China in that way, but very poor in adding capacity, right? Now I read an article about a few weeks back on Economic Times, and biggest farce. They said our power deficit is 2.9%. So this type of article should be taken away and thrown into toilet paper, used as a toilet paper. Because why? This is misleading data, misleading information, misleading journalism. The country is going through an 80 gigawatt shortfall. This I have with evidence given to the CA, and they have accepted my fact. That is the economic shortfall that we have to reach a GDP growth rate of at least 6 to 7%. That is the economic backlog today we have. And that 80 gigawatt has come because of the spillover of the plants, which was through an article of Inertia, where we proved how these last 3-5 year plants have resulted in this major spillover. And that is the only thing we are taking over the past and acting and say we have performed. That is not performance. The performance is close to zero. So you are 80 gigawatt of capacity shortfall, and that is why major villages in India, 60% of them do not receive electricity for 16 hours a day. So we should not close. See, it is, I don't blame. In the Mahabharata there is an example. People say, "Bhai, Dhritarashtra is blind." I would not, and with all due respect to my women friends, I would not love to use this example in that way, but I have to use an example. It is, Dhritarashtra is fine, born andha, or born blind. But it is dangerous to be a Gandhari when you have the eyes and you want to put the patti. Then the Mahabharata will happen. So ये बड़ा dangerous है. तो ये हमारी जो scene है, ये जरा हम बड़े careful रहें, ये नहीं करें. We should open our eyes and do something, and wherever we have resources, we should fight. Now these are some typical data, and I'll tell you about coal consumption. I want to come, which will be a little bit corrected and whatever it is by Sachdev Saab, but predominantly I'll tell you, India's reserves are close to 295 billion. He says 299 billion tons, it's massive. And what is it that we are producing at this point of time? We are at 639 million tons, and our imports are roughly 20% of that capacity. Yeah. What about China? This is very latest figure. China needs about 4.3 billion tons of coal each annum. Out of that, 4.1 billion they are able to produce within the country. Now you have seen the electricity data I threw up. You've seen what it is. I've shown coal production data, because predominantly that is dominating today. And even if you want to look at solar, because see, why I'm comparing, because technology China does not have. China is a copy master technology, blatant intellectual property right violation, and dumping of equipment into markets like India in a major way, for which I have evidence today. I that's my executive publisher, through an RTI, has got hardcore data that until 2012, India imported, and predominantly by the private sector, 63.4 gigawatt of Chinese BTG and BOP, worth 3,50,000 crores. Whether we want to call it a scam or not, we should decide. This data has come last month in our hand. Plus, I was flabbergasted to see Power Grid imported roughly $1 billion worth of equipment in the transmission sector, including some communication modules, and that data list by list is with me across that RTI, done my executive publisher Prakash Iyer, that this was bought, and all this was supposed to be manufactured in India, and we have not bought any rocket science technology. We bought items like insulators. Can you believe it? And I have data. I don't know what do I do. And my other media friends, believe me, are not interested in this fraud. And this includes all the visual media and all the print media of the country, because they are not interested in this. They want do din chale teesre din. It's like in in Maharashtra there is a saying. It is the it's a fight between the kya bolte hain? Yes, that means the fight between the cocks. That's what it is. That's what is happening on the channel every day. Real issues are not brought up. It is there in my. I don't want to tell you which channels without any interest I have given them, but they are not ready to touch this, because they do not know what to do with it actually. But telecom का वो जो सब हवा में दिख रहा है वो नजर आता है. Khera sir will tell me whether I am right or wrong. So anyway, they destroyed the telecom sector in a bigger way. Nobody was complaining why Raja went in, but similar kind of stories in the power sector today. We have one more friend coming in from Plat Energy. Welcome, Saraf Saab. There are seats in the front. Please come over. You should be very close. Yeah. So welcome. So basically with this, I just gave you a little, and we'll continue to, interact today. What is the discussion format today? I have these experts. So what I will do, I will try to manage the dais over a period of time. But first, I would like to call inputs from Yogendra Prasad ji across a keynote and also Sajdev Saab. And then I will, request their permission that then we'll throw the thing open. Time for this I'll request, because see, we have to work on a time frame. So I'll give Yogendra Prasad Saab the next 10 to 15 minutes to give an overall perspective of what he thinks of India's power sector. His wisdom is essential for us. And then we will get also another 10 or 12 minutes from Sajdev Saab to set the ball rolling on what is wrong with our coal sector and also the power sector. So with these two veterans, we will start the day. First, Yogendra Prasad Saab, please come over. We need to hear you today. Please give him a big hand.
My friend dignitaries on the dais, all the participants and distinguished guests, I am really thankful to Mr. Iyer to giving me a chance to have my views before all of you. He has already given many things and you have been reading in the papers all these things, but I feel by associating with the power sector more than 40 years that our planning has never been to the required extent. We have been talking many things and I had occasion to discuss with the people at various levels in the country and also the abroad, and I am finding that somehow ministry may be doing very well in other sectors, but especially power sector it has been a big failure. And recently I was in a seminar where Mr. K.P. Sibal was there. I got one award, Pride of India, only 4 days back. There also he talked a lot about computerization, education system changes, all the things. Then simply I told him, sir, unless you improve the power sector, everything is useless. And today I am just telling you, this ultra mega project discussions was going on when I was chairman of the NHPC. At that time Mr. Shahi was the power secretary, and at that time also I told that we should make the plan in proper way so that we can have proper mix. And new electricity act had come at that time. After that people were talking for the new grid code. New grid code was made applicable in 2010, where power was to be drawn between the frequency range of 49.7 to 50.2. At that time itself, I had told people in the ministry that this is very good thing, because there was a time when our frequency was moving between the band of 48.5 to 51.5. At that time, while I was in America, from Sacramento, I had sent a message that American grids frequency are varying between 0.01 hertz to 0.05. And once the frequency goes beyond 0.5, they remove the generators from the grid. And in India, it is varying between 1.5 up on downside and upside. Actually being tolerated. At that time, Mr. Kumar Mangalam Saab was the power minister. Now he is no more here. He was man of understanding. At that time, I was also made a member of the British-based tariff. I have told him that let us go for a British-based tariff, and it was made formulated, and it gave lot of benefits to this country. At that time itself, I had told that unless you have alternative source of generators, because our people, I don't know what is the reason, somehow everybody talks about the power, but nobody understands the fundamental of the power. My engineers from BHL, NTPC are here, Mr. Jan Saab is here, all are knowing, but the people do not understand the fundamental of the power. Only 2 days back, one senior officer from NTPC had come, and he was particularly an electrical engineer. I don't want to name before Jan Sahab. I just asked him what he was discussing with me about the hydro and thermal, all the things. I just asked him, why you consider this hydro important in power scenario? Then he was telling me, sir, it gives peaking power. I mean, it has got the name of peaking power. What is the characteristic about it? What is the fundamental behind it? He could not reply. Then I asked him regarding the frontal effect of transmission lines. He could not reply to that. I was astonished, and I don't want to name before Jan Sahab because he will make his here bad. Otherwise, I was astonished to see that NTPC engineers are away from the fundamentals so much. Then why not to other people of the country? People do not understand what is the fundamental of the engineering. Now just see, at that time itself I have told that it will create a problem. And last year, last year 9th June, I wrote an article, yes, I knows I have given in the magazine also, Health of Indian Power System and Impact on Indian Economy. And in that I have given the example that this 49.7 to 50.2 frequency band cannot be maintained in this country unless you have proper mix of the generation. And it is resulting because what is happening, if you are drawing power below 49.7, you are being given charged very heavy penalty as per the grid code. The need grid code came in 2010. And at that time in 2012, I had calculated that total dues before the electricity boards of the country was 4,28,000 crores. This was the dues before the electricity boards. That is the figure. And I have written my article also. And at that time also I have written, I have given my suggestion to the ministry, but nobody, you see, whenever you are on power, on chair, you can tell something, somebody hears. If minister tells something, whether he knows anything or not, but he is respected. But if some experts tells anything, unfortunately, people don't care. The people, it is going on. It is a general process. This is a heavily populated country. Here, nobody cares about that. But whenever the problems comes, then people realize what is the value of frequency, what is the value of the different kind of generators. Just whatever I am telling you practical things. And if this country is not going to take care for that, a big disaster will come to this country. People always talk. At that time I have told that this your ultra mega project system is not going to work unless you have proper mix. Because just see in this country what is happening. You have coal generators, generation from thermal power station. You are also talked a lot about this your mega projects, all the things, and then nuclear generation. At that time I have told that this you must find out the proper mix, and if you are going to give power supply to the system at proper voltage, proper frequency, then only you can economize the situation of the country, you can improve the efficiency of the country. But nobody thinks for that. I am sorry to tell you, just see the 5-year plan. Right from 1948-47, when we got independence, from that very day till today, I don't think anybody, very, very efficient man, except few one or two, have come as a power minister. Power ministry is being neglected like anything. I have spoken to so many forums, all these things. When I was even a chairman, I was not caring. I was telling most efficient man should become the power minister of this country so they can show the efficiency. In our country, what is happening? People are appointed as home minister, very successful. Finance minister, very successful. But don't know what is the value of power. By power consumption only, you are measuring the standard of living of the people of the country. And now, we are almost, if you are going to consider, we are nowhere near the developed country, even nowhere, even the 10 times than us. And where we are, just see, it is the desire to operate things properly. God has given, every country has been given certain facilities by the God. In our country we don't have gas. We have shortage of gas and we are depending on import. But we have got abundance water. I got the hydro policy formulated in 2002 and 3 when our Honorable Prime Minister Vajpayee ji was there. And at that time, 50,000 megawatt hydro capacity was planned, and by Honorable Prime Minister has launched this program. But I am sorry to say that out of that, if single megawatt has not been added, if anybody can say that if single megawatt was added, then should correct me. I am speaking before the engineers and people. Even single megawatt not added, because people do not know what Bajpayee ji has done, because we have explained him everything, why it should be done. Even Kalam Azad Sahab was the president. Kalam Sahab, I met him so many times and I have discussed with him all the things, why hydro should be developed, because we don't have thermal power stations, gas power station here, because we have shortage of gas. And alone for meeting the base load, thermal is excellent, nuclear is excellent. But power is the one thing where consumption goes on varying every second, every moment, and substantially during peak hours. Thermal machines are not designed to take peak load as well as the base load. Your variation of load is very difficult and takes time. And I am telling you, maybe many NTPC engineers and all thermal experts, and Jain Sahab is here, can they tell me if there is a load of 100 megawatt in a system, if it goes less than 60 megawatt within a minute, can they manage through thermal? No, not at all. Technology does not allow it. Our BHL engineers are also here. I am just whenever I am writing or telling something, I am telling with challenge with technology. And if you have gas, you have thermal, hydro, you can manage it. That in power sector this happens. So proper mix is required. And I was chairman of the NHPC at that time. We had planned, and our ratio of the hydro thermal was almost 22, 23. I have brought it to 27, and we had planned to go to 40. And only few days back, there was an expert group of the power sector where I am also a member. Secretary Power Mr. Uma Shankar was there, and that program was going on that Grand Hotel. He was telling Mr. Prasad is always talking of the frequency. But now this ratio has gone to 19, and maybe that hydro may go to 16. Then I simply told him this country may go to disaster. Where it will go, nobody knows. Now, everybody, if you are not knowing, Mr. Jain Sahab will be knowing, many people will be knowing. If you are not knowing, I am just telling you. Now new grid code has come on 6th of January this year. No, Jain Sahab, you have seen it. And that grid code is that you have to draw power between 49.9 to 50.05 hertz frequency. Will it be possible? Can any power experts tell me, with this situation where you don't have hydros or sufficient, and then at the same time don't have gas, can thermal power plant meet the requirement like that? How they can do that? And if electricity boards are going to draw power below 49.9, and again, then at that time things will not improve, people's life will not improve. Just see, if you are not giving power, what is happening? If you are cutting the power from any industry, worker, labor who is working there is sitting idle because captive power plant doesn't meet all the requirement. Finally, what is happening? That industry is not producing product, is not competitive to the world market, because we are on the world market also. So all these things are to be seen properly. And unless we do that, this 49.9 to 50.02, idealistic, it is very good for the plant, or the generating plant's life. I understand, but at the same time, is it possible realistically? Can anybody say that 49.9, 50.02 frequency can be maintained with the present mix of thermal or hydro, or where there is no gas plant? Or if any experts have any question, he can ask me. That Mr. Prasad, if you are telling it is a lie, then I am ready to serve him for life. But just see, technology cannot be challenged like this. Today you are not having proper arrangement. If you want to live the life of the 21st century, then live like that. If you don't want to live there, then go to 16th century, but don't waste the time. Today a lot of diseases are coming, lot of problems are coming in this country. Just see, go throughout the world. If power is cut in 1983, when I was training in America, 1983 power was cut for 11 hours in New York. Entire government was at a halt. Here everywhere going on. Nobody caring for that. Power plant is getting delayed. Why it is getting delayed? Why you are not asking the questions to the developers? What is the problem? Whatever problems are there, but why projects are getting delayed unnecessarily? So many works were started. I have given for Arunachal Pradesh many roads and bridges are to be constructed so that we can challenge Chinese. Chinese are entering there. But nobody caring. Money is going to West. If money is not spent, people are thinking otherwise. I had started the proper advice I have given to government that we have potential of geothermal like anything. I have spent about more than 5 crore rupees for that, and I have started work on that. But in planning commission, they were questioning why Mr. Prasad, NHPC should invest money on that, why you should give money from the government on R&D. And you have budget for that. I'm not the thing to move at all. And because of these things are not moving. So that's why I'm requesting by all professors sitting here that kindly think over it. Unless that is thought, I will go, sir, we have power, we do that thing, we have improved this thing. I don't want to speak all these things. But unless there is a political will, unless we are ready to help the nation, unless we love the nation, things will not improve. Just why I've taken you a lot of time, but I have to tell you frankly the facts of the case. Unless you are going to improve the proper mix, unless you are going to bring all the pending projects of hydro, the efficiency of thermal will not increase, people will not get quality power and cheap power. Thank you.
In fact, Prasad Saab experiences so much that he can give us so much. And these were things which we have discussed constantly. It's good that it has come, some of that has come in public domain today, which we have personally discussed when we were talking to him. And it is always a very exciting thing because he has so much of experience as an engineer doing all these things. And this country does not respect engineers. First you jail the engineer only. See, everybody has a lobby. The lawyers have a lobby. Even my media friends have a lobby. 2 of us are here. My friend from Plat Energy, but we are better media, I would say. The other media is all type of stuff is going on. Then we have lobbies of doctors. We have lobbies for everybody, but show me an engineer's lobby. There is none. Yeah, absolutely. Come, sir. Sachdev sir.
Thank you for allocating me 10 minutes after hearing all interesting stories.
So you can take 12 minutes.
No. Perfect. I've got, before I take up coal, I would compliment Mr. Yogendra Prasad I'll handle it. Summing up the problem in terms of frequency, in terms of hydrothermal mix, and the garnishing was done by my friend Professor Iyer by telling the CEA document tells that energy shortage is only 2.9%. Now, when you take these 3 nodal points, I'm not a power expert, and I have, with due apology to all the power experts sitting here, including Mr. Yogendra Prasad, how you can attain a frequency of 50 plus minus? Only by having a capacity. Today, spinning capacity in the US is 78% of the installed capacity. Spinning capacity. Every household, every housewife, your own wife, your mothers, your sisters, keep something handy for the guests who come unannounced. Even a boiled potato sometimes does. And our poverty lies in the spinning capacity. And you have given a very sophisticated technical term of frequency. I agree with you because I know something of power being an engineer. But flaw lies in our lack of capacity building. Do you agree with me? Yes. Thank you. Now, second thing about the 2.9%. Now, 2.9%, I don't want to again criticize my friends from the energy power sector. Till about 7-8 years back, Central Exchange Authority had a statutory authority to give the techno-economic clearances. You find their statistics had punch. Their statistics had truth. Their statistics had some evidence of concern. Today, statistics have become a vox populi because you just create the numbers to keep people happy. Now, you heard him, 3-4 power cuts. You heard you said 18 hours power is not available in some areas. 2.9%, what does it really mean? So, connected with that about hydro, I don't want to again go into storytelling. I had a chance to review Dulhasti project, which was delayed by 14 years plus. More than that. Anyway, that's why I said plus, because the date of commissioning was goalposts being shifted every 1 year. And I know the problems of the hydro projects. That was which are known to mainly people who are involved together. 10% comes from private mines, including Tata's, Meghalaya, and about 30 odd coal blocks which are working. Now this, today we are importing figures. I don't have the updated figure, but I am told it's about 165 million is the total import. Out of 165 million, 25 million, according to the government, is inescapable. That is for coking coal. There also I have got a different view. We can produce coking coal also. We have a lot of reserves. Out of 299 billion, 12% is the coking coal resources in Jharia and all these fields. Our consumption is only 11.8%. So we can meet our requirement if we need to do it. Anyway, remaining, if you take out the 25 or 24 million, 140 million is thermal coal which is being imported. This figure is target to reach 185 million by 2017. I feel if the plants which are starving today, and we might exceed this figure, and import may go beyond that. Now for a while I'll just take you a little away on the global scenario, because we are importing a very substantial amount of 1/3 roughly, little less than 1/3 of our total requirement. Total coal production in the world is about 7,800 million tons, of which about 12 to 13% is globally traded. Of that number, we take about 12% of that globally traded coal. Global coal production is increasing only at about 2.8% to 2.9% per annum. Our demand on import is growing at 6 to 8% per annum. He said a very interesting Chinese number he gave, because China today is importing about 240 million tons, and they are going to cross 500 million tons in the next 4 years. Now, if I had to buy in demand increases by 4 to 6 to 4%, 6 to 8% on demand side, I'm talking production, and our production comes only about 2% every year. My gap is increasing, so import dependence is going to increase, and there is no water available in the tub. Port facility nahi available hai, bahana hai ye. Foreign exchange, yes, it does pinch the pocket. Koila nahi available hai. Global market doesn't have coal. Even if you own asset abroad and you start producing free, there is a demand. So, gentlemen, there is no choice but to produce coal. We have the resources. Now, I take you the problem in production of coal. I'm not bothering with the statistics. Those numbers, Professor Iyer can give you any day. You can share with him. Now the problems. Anybody who, I think most of us would have visited the coalfield areas or anywhere. In fact, even the habitation started with forests and water. River courses and forests, they were the life givers to habitation. The coal also is a product of that same. And the exposure of the coal fields are again on the water courses. You have Damodar Valley coalfield, Kanhan Valley coalfield, Pench Valley coalfield, all named after the rivers there. Now this fact, first thing we have to, I mean all the decision makers, starting from the apex levels, from the Prime Minister, coal has to be mined from where it exists. I can generate power anywhere, and you can have any amount of grid, you can even import power. Now, you can, in Europe, across the sea, power is being transported. But coal has to be dug there only. At the same time, I am probably amongst the very staunch environmentalist. But looking at the scenario which is happening elsewhere, let's go to Australia. And if people very often go to US, if you are gone to Appalachian coal fields, you find drive the road, you find thick forest both sides. Go in 300 meter inside, you find coal mining running. They cut the forest, they generate it, In 3 years' time, the total girth, the stem or what foliage comes to the same, because they need wood for houses. What we need for bricks, cement and plaster and all that, there most of the houses in US, leave out the capital, those cities, big cities, they are made of wood. And there is no bar on the cutting of forest. But you have to plant and follow certain discipline. Here, we have been undertaking coal mining since 1774, virtually 200 and some 30, 40, I mean maybe close to 250 years, 240 years. Huge vasts of land areas are devastated. We are not able to restore them. I don't know why there is no will. Now, Mr. Prasad made a very important point, that with the new Land Acquisition Act, do you think projects can come? I say, I disagree with him. Yes, it has to come, because now there is a clarity in terms of the ownership, in terms of the compensation, in terms of what you give and what you take, which was not there. You have been toying with the rehabilitation R&R policy, all the states from early 70s. The first R&R, I think MP government or Odisha government started in 1974. Till today, then we wanted to impose some national R&R policy. You compare. If today I give 4 times, I take 10 times. 4 times is very, I would say, less to a project for land. My project cost will go up 10-12%, maximum 15%. My delay of 10 years, project goes up by 300%, cost goes up by 300%, which is cheaper? Yeah. Debate later. Which is cheaper? Getting a land straight away. Why people are owning so many cars on the road? When you say 11% interest, looks to be very big. When you defray it over the requirement of the house, car, anything, people just go to the bank, take few papers and take the loan. That's why we have all those problems, NP and all that. So friends, now what has to be done with the Land Acquisition Act now? Implementation has to be very, very, very rigid, strict and transparent. If you do that, if you get a project on zero date, I tell you, आपने स्वर्ग कमा लिया एकदम. Project, whether you take coal, whether you take railways, whether you take highways, single issue.
एक मिनट जरा एक्ट को पूरा ठीक से नहीं बताया गया. एक्ट में क्या है? 80% लैंड जब प्राइवेट ड्रॉ करिए तो गवर्नमेंट ना ड्रॉ करिए. प्राइवेट लैंड आप ले लीजिएगा, 20% के लिए गवर्नमेंट हेल्प करेगी. ऐसा है. एक्ट को जरा ठीक से बताया जाए.
अगर आप मेरा फ्लो कम हो जाएगा, गड़बड़ हो जाएगा, आप बाद में करेंगे. विल कम बैक टू यू.
नहीं, ये हम डिबेट करेंगे.
नहीं
बात करेंगे.
नहीं करेंगे, लेकिन हम बता दिया.
एक प्रसाद सर, एक सेकंड, बिकॉज आई गेट डिस्टर्ब. See, I have gone through the rigor of, he rightly said, compensation will be paid immediately. As a project officer, I found where first day I took over, I was Geraud. And I found out some 75 villagers were not paid compensation, which I got it done in 3 days, and there was it was smooth going. I agree with that. But whatever law is made, after all, the Land Acquisition Act has taken almost 30 years for amendment. It has mulling over by everybody, all stakeholders are mulled over it. As I say, implementation has to be correct, fast, rigid, transparent, and right person should get the compensation. Now here, I am going to give some sort of a little explosive idea. Pure land acquisition is not going to solve your problem, pure compensation by check or cash, by bank, anything, even superimposed by NREGA and all these soft things, till you give a job to a land loser. Because every industry, there is a limit to mechanization, and least in the coal industry. We are not going to reach level where I can, like Jan mine in Poland, I can do coal mining sitting on the surface. I need labor. What today? I mean, within these 4 walls, I can tell you, you can go and verify the checks, check the figure. 69% of coal India production is coming from outsourcing. I mean, वो कहता है ना, गुड़ खाना और गुलगुले से परहेज, ठेकेदारी से ले रहे हो, and you don't want to. So why can't you have proper, instead of raising the wages of the every year, You're not taking advantage of the cheapest coal. So Land Acquisition Act, proper R&R with proper package given. If you can get the land, coal projects, power projects, all of the projects can be taken care of. Their issue of governance is required. I think you are a better person to speak on that. I won't do, because I have been part of it for many years and I found what is happening. So governance I'm not touching. This is understood. This is like a salt which in every sabzi it is there. Only you have to tell kam hai zyada hai. Now second part we come. How do we had this problem seen not today, 1993, when present Prime Minister was Finance Minister and Mr. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. We had foreign exchange reserves only for 4 hours sustenance, 4 hours, not even 24 hours. Most of you know. Yeah. Yeah. And we were asked some 239 power projects. Investors are there. The red book was prepared by Ministry of Power. You have to give Deputy Chairman Planning Commission, now our Honorable President of India. Where we started, how do we go about? Amend the Nationalization Act. It can't be done. It's a holy cow. Okay. There is a via media, which I suggested. Let's have some recourse to allow people to have captive mining, because they are not selling coal. They are not eating it. They are not exporting it. They are putting a plant, investing their money. See, if I take 5 million tons of coal, at that time my investment was 250 crores only. And for 5 million ton of coal, I could generate 1000 megawatt, which requires 4,000 crores investment. 250 crore investment, sustaining 4,000 crore investment plus transmission another 4,000 crore. It was a very good bargain, I think. That's why we started with that. What wrong in the policy, what went wrong, I think you read his last couple of magazines is given. 230 or 220 blocks were allotted. Purpose was, we can't tinker with the Coal Mine Nationalization Act. But let us have the hand-holding policy. Let more players come in the coal and produce more coal, because we have so many blocks. Today we have about 450 coal mining blocks which are open. If this field is open, free for all, overnight you can start 400, 500 mines, each with a capacity of 5 million tons each. Even today, if these blocks are allowed by some, wisdom of the policy makers, कभी जो गड़बड़ किया 22-23 उनको छोड़ो, जो 61 क्लियर हैं उनको तो बोलो यार कोई ब्लैंकेट क्लियरेंस देके काम चलाओ. They can produce about 250 million tons of coal in the next 5 years. So what happened, we got any policy which comes out as Land Acquisition Act. It came out with very good intentions. But if you start again complicating it, you know what can happen. Whether 80%, 20%, 80% villages consent. But you have a civil administration starting from deputy collector, all that they are supposed to. So coal availability in the country, in terms of resource, it is there. In terms of availability, you can make available, because you don't require rocket science to produce coal. We are self-sufficient in terms of manufacturing capacity also. Now third is the infrastructure. Now infrastructure is a very important issue, where I would like to indulge you guys more seriously. You must have been reading कि सब कोयला नहीं पहुंचता power house में, ठीक है? In past there have been some imbalances. Today, when I am importing 160 million tons and going to, increase it to 200 million or 185 million of import thermal coal, why still I am putting power stations at the locations which is my ministers there, my MLAs there, my MPs there? Why I can't rationalize all the imported coal to be given to the coastal power stations, or the power stations which are going to come up within 150 kilometer in the coastline or 250 kilometer? You draw a line. I give, choice is yours. And what is coal is available domestically, give it to the mainland. Because it's easy to, this is a price difference. There is no price difference. In fact, today also, domestic coal to Tuticorin is more expensive than imported coal to Tuticorin. Jan can bear with me. Because the freight, I carry coal 400 kilometer, 24 with 42% ash. So, that is one infrastructure. We should rationalize the distribution system. When this policy was formed, the new coal distribution policy 97, Harish Gupta was coal secretary, I told him. Now, how the hell you are making Coal India responsible for importing coal, for distributing coal, canalizing coal, for linking coal, for everything? और उनको माइनिंग करने दो, उनको कोयला निकालने दो. Let some other agency do it. Now, second aspect, once you deal with this, second stage of infrastructure is how to link the coal fields. Now, again, we have two options. I prefer the power station should come near the pit head, as close to the pit head possible. And there are classic examples. Professor I had mentioned about Jindal's and NTPC. Their success is doesn't lie in the chairman Naveen Jindal or chairman now who is there, Mr. Anup Roy. The efficiency lies, they are next to the coal resources, they have their own coal resources. That is the success. Success has come out of sufficiency of the inputs, feedstock, raw material at the doorstep. Except Dadri, all their plants are located at the mine mouth. And you see the 20 rupees freight compared to 2,500 freight being given by Gujarat. So once you rationalize the distribution, things will improve. Now, third step, NTPC and others also who have got the captive mines in the new, another 14 mines have been allocated in July. And unfortunately, I was also part of that allocation because I gave them formula and we did it. But we have yet to sign those agreements because everybody wants to have center in Shastri Bhavan. When you are going to deal with 200, 400, tomorrow if mines are, sector is opened, everything can't be controlled from here. Under constitution, state owns the resources. और मालिक हम बैठे हुए हैं यहाँ उसको. So this dichotomy in the governance, in the rules, regulation have to come. Now I touch upon the last point, which UMPP policy is a very, very, I would say, innovative policy which was started about 7-8 years back. It's showing success. And why it is successful? Because I am taking over the responsibility, undertaking the responsibility of environment clearance for the land issue, for the fuel issue. Rest is you put the equipment together, and I'm not telling it is so simple, but when I've taken away the burden of all these problems, now what new this policy which is now have been circulated, I think couple of weeks back, they have shortlisted 25 new UMPP plants in the private sector, besides what NTPC and these will do. Total, I think, megawatt is about 35,000 megawatt, for which they have notified certain guidelines. Now, if you read those guidelines, again, we are making same mistake, what we did earlier. You are making the coal will be given to the DISCOMs. Coal block will be nominated to the DISCOM, which is a government-owned or any government-designated entity. Now, today, DISCOMs have, there is no money with them. Now, today, policy which is being now announced or has been announced a couple of weeks back, DISCOMs are being given the responsibility of coal mining, holding the block. The bidding will be done. There is one good part of that story, that you have fixed cost and variable cost. You bid only on the fixed cost and job is done, and L1 gets it. Variable cost, onus taken by the DISCOM. Now, but the production of coal, the cleaning, washing, handling, everything is to be done by the developer. What you call DFO, what is the DFBOT? Design, finance, build, own and transfer. Now, tell me, like a asset which I have, if I draw on the day one, I have to transfer it to him after 30 years. What I'm going to do with that? The asset doesn't belong to me. पैसा मैं लगा रहा हूं, कौन करेगा आगे? Jan will have to explain it further. I don't know, because because so much I was involved in. I said this is really when you have a policy, good, block de do usko, let him do the mining, protect him. There is a power purchase act, now it's called power supply agreement. PPA has been replaced by power supply agreement. DISCOM will take it and distribute it. And if a good chief minister like Iyer comes, he says free for all. DISCOM money ille. Then how do you pay the developer? So these are something, again, I just sum up. The model is really good. In fact, I have been myself promoting even coal mining should be done on this model. If you can take care of land acquisition and RRR, I am done. Rest is my technical capability and my efforts. I can dig coal, 200 million, 100 million, 30 million, depending on the requirement. So long I am being paid for it, and there is no reason why you should not be paid, because today, Coal India is sitting on a chest of 65,000 crore, dividend of 15,000 crore given, and 29 rupees per share dividend to public at whosoever they want. So, this country, we are very lucky. Although Mr. My friend Yogendra, he mentioned कि साहब हमारे resources कम है, coal में resources बहुत है, नीयत खराब है हमारी. So कोयले की कमी नहीं है, और अगर हम लोग इसको ठीक से करेंगे, this ostrich policy will not work. 2.9% efficiency है demand and supply में, भूल जाओ. Please don't do that. It is at least 29%. At least 29%, not 2.9%.
This is the fallacy that's been promoted. For the last time telling you.
क्या करें? Even NTPC has to put the same figure because they report to Sham Shakti Bhavan. Anyway, what I am telling you, gentlemen, you can give Narega, you can give Manrega, you can give free food, you can give free gas, but for electricity, you have to generate it. For generating electricity, you need land, you need the resources, you need the fuel, you need the will, and you need all technical brains. Thank you very much. Sorry if I have hurt anybody's ego on this. I am very sorry for that.
No, Abhi, but I would like see, because to be fair, I think Prasad Saab should take 2 minutes to rebut the point what he wanted to say.
Just I have nothing against whatever Satyavasa was telling, but I want to tell you the facts. People have to not talk on theory. What has happened, government has announced in the policy, once the private sector will acquire 80% land. First understand the point. Once 80% land will be acquired by the party, then only others will, the government will help for 20%. The situation as it is, I have done the projects. The moment you have already increased the power, the rate of 4 times more, and today the cost of land has been increased more than 10 times to every village, every her circle rate has been increased like anything, because state government has decided that let us have all revenue through this only. Now, just try to understand the practical things. You want to do the project or not want to do the project. In private sector, first developer has to arrange the land, pay from the pocket. How many people have money for that? First you have to purchase the land. Nobody will purchase the land. And after purchasing the 80% land, there is no guarantee that project will come. All these things have to be thought of. Just like China, they provide all the land, whatever cost you charge. But don't harass the people, private people, because nobody recognizes them. The DM is not going to hear them. If you want to meet the DM, he will tell come tomorrow. Like this, be practical. I have done practical work, I am just telling you. Land acquisition is not so easy, whatever cost they might have told. And 80% you have to acquire. They will ask, 4% is the minimum. Even 10 times they will ask. I can't stop. 80% once you acquire, then also you are not sure. Then how the investor will come and do that, Baba? These things are to be understood. And figures, years of the CA always giving, because all the officers are coward, whatever ministry tells them, write that. Just telling them.
Right.
So all the things are happening in this country, the human weakness. So that's why I am telling that proper things are not being, there is no forum for that. People should discuss how much I need hydro, how much I need this thing. Just see, Prime Minister program is not implemented once government is changed. Everybody knows in this country that tariff fixation is not in the hand of politicians or chief minister. You know that?
Yes, it's in the hand of regulator.
The tariff.
It's absolute regulator.
And how the chief minister has announced that I will give you 50% free power.
It's unbelievable. It's the biggest farce.
People give the vote for that. And now 50% power means what? He will give subsidy. Means other development work will be stopped. So entire country will be only buying the power, doing no work at all. Just I'm telling you the thing.
But where from will buy?
When?
We'll buy.
Right.
Huh?
Bilkul, bilkul.
No. This is see. What is spreading? I'll give free power. Arey bhai, you have no power. The tariff is not fixed by NTPC or anybody because they give all the altered account to the regulator. People should understand the fundamentals. These people are not understanding. Kejriwal has told 50% free power means vote. Now one other MP has just started answer that
In Bombay.
Everybody now following up.
कर दिया 20% कम कर दिया.
अब सब्सिडी देने का मतलब क्या है कि आपका पैसा जो डेवलपमेंट के लिए है, रोड के लिए है, स्कूल के लिए है, अस्पताल के लिए, वो पैसा बर्बाद कर रहे हैं. तो हम वही चाहते हैं कि चीजों को समझें. हाइड्रोथर्मल मिक्स प्रॉपर हो जाएगा, आप प्रॉपर वोल्टेज प्रॉपर फ्रीक्वेंसी पर पावर दीजिएगा, आप मैक्सिमम इकोनॉमी होगा. ये थर्मल मशीन जो 25 साल पर रिपेयरिंग में जाना चाहिए वो 5 साल में रिपेयरिंग में जा रहा था. 1.5 हर्ट्ज पर क्या हुआ? एनटीपीसी की हालत खराब हो गई. देन ओनली व्हाई दिस हैज कम इन 2001 or 2 1.5 hertz frequency was being allowed, and at that time nobody was caring. Now it is 0.05, 0.01. Now why they have come? Because of damages, and now some private players have come. They have seen by the we can't survive. All these problems are there. So these are the things. Just I'm telling you,
Right.
I want always practical things. Whatever I have faced in my life, and practical things I have taught. That's all.
Right, sir. Now, we'll just change the format because we need to make it even more interesting because there are people. I want Jain Saab. I'll take the permission of Khera Saab. Because Jain Saab gives both the perspective, the NTPC, which he is in the past led. He also brought, because we interacted and I'm very happy to say that he was the man who's the pioneer who got all this NTPC to bite the 2% solar requirement, in the thermal power plant, that you should have capacity. Our whole idea was, the larger idea which I have discussed again with P.K. Sinha ji, the power secretary, is entire auxiliary consumption, which is about 7% in thermal power, should comes from solar or renewable energy. So that will move. Now, the man who actually implemented on the ground is D.K. Jain. So please welcome him with a big hand, and I think he should take this as, and sir, you come here and speak for 5-10 minutes, whatever you want. I think you must give the perspective.
I'll only share a few points with respect to what Yogendra Prasad ji has talked and what Mr. Sachdev has talked. A few points which come to my mind are, one is with respect to demand and supply of power. Yes, CA has come out in their survey that the shortage is about 3%. That is also true in its own way. It is called suppressed demand. As on today, will you believe it, 50% of the reasons why the plant load factors of some of the best plants in the country has gone down. 50% of the reason is coal availability, and 50% of the reason is lower scheduling by the states. Lower scheduling by the states. They have the right to schedule 100 megawatt, they schedule 70 megawatt, they schedule 50 megawatt. And on the other side, the state is suffering because people are not getting power for 18 hours a day.
And I tell you the biggest false. They are saying Mumbai has power. My office is in the suburb of Mumbai. I just wrote to Scindia ji about a week back. Today, I will tell you, Jain Saab, the suburbs of Mumbai get in winter a cut of 6 hours per day.
That's it. Delhi has been more fortunate that way. Delhi has had, yes, privatization has helped from that point of view. The power cuts have reduced tremendously. Now it's more of the maintenance breakdowns. Next, coming back to the again grid frequency linked with that, the demand and supply. There was a time when grid frequency used to fall below 47 hertz also. Many power plant steam turbines were damaged. It was not designed for that. In NTPC we started designing for wider frequency range. That means higher cost of the equipment, special design for the equipment. I remember I started designing power plant auxiliaries to be able to give their rated duty even with 47.5 hertz. Means over design of the equipment. Yes, you were able to run the unit even with that level of frequency, but it meant higher cost, lower efficiency of the plants. Today, yes, the grid code has helped a lot. I remember my old colleague Mr. Bhanu Bhushan really was a pioneer in that area. It has helped. But yes, what Mr. Yogendra Prasad says is also correct, that you have to see the practicability of it. You have to ensure that the discipline is observed by everybody. There are some states which are always flouting the discipline when the need to discipline comes. And that leads to the regional grid failures, sometimes national grid problems also. And what we call as hydrothermal wicks, dimension to it now. I was just reading the other day a big article on what's happening in Germany. Germany, they've introduced so much of renewables, solar as well as the wind, that the conventional plants are being forced to shut down every day. They are working at almost 30 to 40% plant load factors, and they are required to take care of all the peaking, all the fluctuations. And it's a totally disruptive process in the sense that while solar has been successful, subsidized a lot, while it's a successful being a green power source, but it has really disrupted the conventional power systems. And a new thinking has to start as to how do we have both the renewables and the conventional power, solar, wind, coal or hydel survive together. Hydel, I agree with him, most of the hydro plants which are not reservoir based cannot be used for much of peaking. Maybe little bit of peaking here and there. We cannot call those peaking. Those will be called base load stations only. I agree with you. But in India, we can't have many reservoir based plants also because it requires a lot of land. And today with the environmental concerns we have, that becomes a big issue. Coming back to the ultra mega power plants. Yes, government and the developers have learnt through the process of the ultra mega power plants, first stage, second stage, now we are reaching the third stage almost. They have tried to remove some of the uncertainties which some of the developers could capitalize on. They have come to a stage where they are saying we'll bid only for the fixed cost. Only for the fixed cost. Performance norms have been laid out. Everybody has to comply with that minimum. Coming to your main issue which you were talking about, the Chinese equipment, linked with this. I'll tell you some good things have happened. One is by the natural course which we had no control on. The yuan has strengthened versus the rupee by almost 50% over the last 4 or 5 years. So the Chinese equipment has become costlier. Second is the government has introduced some duties. No more mega project benefits. Only the ones which were given benefits earlier will continue. No more mega project benefits. That means they'll have to pay duty on those equipment. Third is the CRC has come up with a new guideline wherein all the new power plant which come up have to necessarily have an audit by the CEA with respect to the design standards notified by the CEA. All power plants will have to comply with that as a minimum. And a new dimension they have added is with respect to the efficiency level of the boilers and the heat rate of the turbines, which this has both pluses and minuses. It's very strict. Even Indian power plant manufacturers may find it difficult, but Chinese equipment it's not possible unless they totally redesign the process. Turbine heat rate, they have never achieved such levels. Boiler efficiency, they achieve much lower levels. So they'll have to redesign their process itself to be able to achieve these levels. So I think half of your worries, maybe 80% of your worries are already taken care by the system, by nature itself, and some of the government guidelines. But rest will get taken care by one basic thing, that I believe they have not been able to support whatever equipment they had supplied in India. They have not been able to support in terms of spares and services. And many of those equipment are suffering because of higher maintenance cost, higher maintenance requirements, which when the Indian units are designed to take care of Indian coal. That's a big advantage we have. BHEL definitely has designed very well. Over the last 20-25 years, we in NTPC and BHEL together have learned how to take care in the design features, how to maintain those equipment so that we have lesser problems with the low-grade Indian coals. Coming to the next point with respect to the availability of coal. As Mr. Sachdev rightly said, as on today, the shortfall is only increasing and it will further increase. Yes, we need to make up. We have sufficient proven reserves in the country. But the problem which I have seen, I have been on the other side over the last 1.5 years, is with respect to the land acquisition as well as with respect to the environmental clearances. And third is law and order issues, because most of this coal is in Naxalite infested areas. It's not easy to really get things done in that area. Environmental requirements need to be made more clear, and as Mr. Sachdev rightly said, like it is done in USA or many other countries, why can we not implement a policy by which, okay, even if you cut a forest, you have a methodology by which it is regenerated.
Like a compensation.
Like a compensation. Let's make that more strict, more clear.
You have kept all the money, I am told, some 20,000 crore is lying in the
It's lying with the government, but nothing is happening on that.
Not has been grown.
I agree.
I may be off by number.
Yeah.
1,000
It's substantial, it's
It's
substantial.
all lying dead, that money, in the where it has been used to make up that CAD bridge.
Next, coming to the plant load factors we were talking about in China versus India versus USA. Will you believe it? The NTPC's power plant utilization factor is the highest in the world.
It's the best.
Highest in the world. But it is again going down, courtesy the problems with the coal availability and the scheduling being done by the states. That is where, and the new CRC norms are creating more problems in that process. Hydro, yes, we need more of hydro in the country. Whatever happened, yes, in NTPC we had to go through the learning process. But let me share with you, Mr. Dubey has been a pioneer of the hydro power generation in NTPC. He started the work on the first project, hydro project of NTPC, Coal Dam. And Coal Dam, already it's very close to the commissioning. Impounding of the dam has already started. In a few months we should be able to commission the units. Yes, it's been a long learning process. Hydro projects have disadvantages with respect to geological surprises, with respect to forest clearances, with respect to land acquisition, because vast lands are required generally for hydro projects and it's not easy. And we need to have a policy, the land acquisition policy. Yes, it's being made more clear today, but it has problems associated with it also, in the sense that process is a very long process. Yes, things are being made more clear, but the process is a long process. We need to find ways how to shorten the process. Thank you.
In fact, Jain Sahab gave a lot of solutions related to, I think he gave a direction. So I only have one point to make, like hydropower has challenges, I would not use the word disadvantages. I would rather just take your permission to use as challenges, Yeah, we would थोड़े से disadvantage बोल रहे थे, but I think it is challenges. And जैसे वो बोल रहे थे, प्रसाद साहब, वो 56 इंच की छाती तो चाहिए ये करने के लिए, उसके बिना तो नहीं कर पाएंगे आप. I think now I want Khera Sahab, because he has been hearing and he is a different perspective man, who has seen telecom going up and coming down, and he sees a connect between the power sector and the telecom sector. I want him to take 7 minutes, and then we'll break open with the other panelists for what I will have specific questions and we'll have a panel. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Prof, for giving me this opportunity. And kind of you really see, I'm going to just basically first introduce where do we deal into it. We are into telecom, media and technology. Now telecom means for all of us to understand mobile, broadband, media means television, and technology means data centers. Just to be, why I'm mentioning these are the entities which actually consume power. Okay? Now, just to give you an idea, today the nation has 450,000 telecom towers. Okay? Going forward, after the spectrum auction, the number is likely to be 500,000 towers. 500,000 towers, and we all know what towers are. These are starting from a simple pole-based tower. Then there is a rooftop tower, which is about 15 meters, 20 meters. Then there is a huge ground-based towers. All these towers, assume these will be 500,000. On an average, each tower consumes 3 kilowatt to 5 kilowatt. That includes the air conditioning. Actually, that's more power guzzling entity than the electronic piece, the BTS, whatever you call it. Assume 3 kilowatt, very, very conservative, because when we set up Tata Indicom's telecom network in Delhi, we got those BTSs in 2001, 2, 3, which were eating 20 kilowatt put together. That is gone, because that's the technology which we got. 3 kilowatt, 500,000 towers, 500,000 into 3 kilo means it's 1.5 giga. 1.5 gigawatt of power to be used by these entities on 24/7 basis. Please, let's be very clear, because the telecom, media and technology works 24/7. So there's no power cut here. I mean, if you cut the power, you are deprived. So this is just one point I want to make, that this is the extent of the consumption of power in the telecom, media technology is different. I'll just give an example. 2007, 2008, when I was in Reliance Communication, we were doing a study how to conserve power, energy conservation, because the Reliance Communications power bill used to be 2,500 crores per annum, which is huge. Suddenly we found, we said, okay, which is the industry which is the greatest power consumer on this earth? Our minds went to, oh, it could be Exxon, the petrochemicals, or Shell or something. No, we were wrong. Our research showed Google is the highest power guzzler in the whole world. We got shocked. I said, how? We then went a step further. Somehow we got an estimate of how many servers they have, how many data centers they have, and then the acquisition of YouTube. Google today is the greatest power consumer on this earth. It's unbelievable, no? How come Google? Oh, Google is just giving me what? Just put something, www.com. What the hell is happening? Behind all that, Google is the greatest culprit. I shouldn't say culprit, but in power. They are helping a lot in others. So, that is the second point I want to say. Third point, going forward, we must visualize what is happening in the telecom front. We know, just the latest, about a month back, there's a company, Everything Everywhere, in UK, in the heart of London. Okay? They launched their LTE based mobile broadband service. LTE is a technology. And somehow they, with their technical acumen, their suppliers, they combined the two bands frequencies, one in 1800 megahertz, the other in 23 megahertz, 40 megahertz karke. They somehow made sure that every tower was giving them 300 Mbps of throughput. That can be distributed to competing mobiles. Okay. They got an idea. Okay, 300 Mbps peak, great. And we still have 20 megahertz reserve, which they can combine and make 450. But they didn't do that. They said, okay, now what do we do? Okay. They sensed a demand for television in the hands of the people. Okay. Hitherto, the television or mobile television has been failure because people, different technology, but now with the LTE coming in, they said, okay, 15 television channels which will take 25 megabits, okay? Reduce this 25 Mbps or 30 Mbps out of 300. I still get about 270 Mbps to give to the customers who need for their internet, mail, whatnot. Okay? This 30 Mbps I push, or we push 15 television channels which are popular. And these are streamed. People are watching. Where? When they are going for a stroll on the market, they don't want to miss their favorite thing. They want to see that. Okay? They are going in a car, and when they come back to home, they want to do seamless watching there. So that has already happened in London, Tech City. Talk about India. What is Reliance Jio doing? Let me just share quickly what are they doing. They've got 20 megahertz in 2.6 gigahertz band, the broadband wireless access. Likewise, Bharti has got, Aircel has got, Tikona has got, BSNL has got, like that. Bharti is the only company which has launched LTE in 4 cities. Kolkata, Pune, Chandigarh and Delhi now they've launched. Okay, that's fixed. What's Reliance Jio doing? They got all India. Bharti's got only 9 circles. One of the plans which Reliance Jio working is, okay, now I find there is a huge demand for television which the cable companies, the satellite companies are able to meet only when you are static in your home with the quality, etc., all notwithstanding. They say, okay, in 1 square kilometer of a dense area, take for example Noida or Bombay, whatever you call it, we will put 16 LTE advanced stations, 16 in 1 square kilometer. You can imagine you'll have to put where 250 meters. And we'll get 150 Mbps out of the bandwidth which you got. I will put 10 channels. 10 channels will occupy 17 Mbps and I'll start streaming. That's what their plan is. They already done the trials. Imagine in 1 square kilometer, they are wanting to put 16 LTE base stations, no doubt, so base stations consume less power, but associated with that, there will be 16 towers coming up there, okay? Maybe a pole kind of a tower, there will be fiber coming underneath. There has to be a power connection. Who will give that power connection? Is it going to be from EB, or is it going to be solar, or is it going to be DG? We don't know as yet. Imagine, this is just 1 square kilometer I talked about. Pan India, top 10 cities, top 40 cities, top 50 cities. Of course, it's not going to be Pan India because there's not going to be huge demand. But top 100 cities. Top 100, wherever it is going to be there. Imagine the power scenario. I just want to basically bring out this to this August gathering over here. This scenario for demand, huge spurt in the power. How we are going to meet is the challenge with all the power guys over here. And government has to, of course, I've been hearing very patiently how our August panelists have been speaking about, and there are a lot of issues. We also have the same issues in telecom. We do grapple with it. But that is the kind of scenario which is imminent in next 3 to 5 years to unfold, because the nation is now seriously thinking of what? They are seriously thinking in next 3 to 5 years, come out with a national level digital IP next generation converged ubiquitous network, DINCU we call it, DINCU. What is that? DINCU is okay. It is going to help carry any and every type of signal, starting from the way I am speaking voice, data, video, TV, map, sketches, you name a thing it will carry, including the backhaul for these towers of Reliance Jio which I am speaking about. If that is the network which has to come, the telecom companies and the cable companies I mean, we all know telecom companies, we all know cable companies. There are 60,000 LCOs, local cable operators. There are 5,000 MSOs. All these guys need to combine, and to make that path easy, the regulator is thinking to bring out some favorable interconnection regulation, which gives them what do you call solace from should a party default. After all, there are defaults happening. You're not paying me and things like that. So once that comes, Dinku starts seeing the light of the day. Next 3 to 5 years, mind you, the country is going to have 630 million people being provided with base level to true broadband access. Don't forget today, Europe, every home in Europe, last month only has been declared by the European Commissioner, EU Commissioner, every home in Europe is connected with minimum 2 Mbps of broadband. India, our targets for broadband have been moving like this. We are only 18 million broadband, a population of 1.2 billion. Is it the biggest shame in the country? Wherever we go, we are laughed at. Oh, you are 1.2 billion. How many broadband? 18 million. Great, thank you very much. And that's how we are treated in all international seminars. And only last week there was a CEO's enclave which I was attending. TRAI chairman was there. We brought this point up. Manish Tiwari ji was there. He was speaking something about that. We said, and before we could bring out from Broadband India Forum such points, they themselves were saying, it's a shame on us. Our moving targets of broadband, we have to make it stop and achieve. So all in all, this is basically a huge connotation on the demand and availability of power. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, it was important to get this perspective because telecom and power are going to get connected. And whatever we are talking about, the rural economy interface, now that is a major challenge and it is gigawatt scale. We are doing fundamental research. He said 1.5 gigawatt, but as far as inertia research goes, for actually integrating the country on those kind of platform, we will need 20 gigawatt for the telecom sector. So that is the kind of figure that's coming. I want to be very perfect on this, so I am not releasing this data. So you will see. So we are going to be blacked out, I tell you. No, you're right. Not browned out. I'm telling you, blacked out. And at this point of time, we are sending more and more citizens in semi-urban and urban areas also out of the grid. Rural to हमने उसको खत्म कर दिया है. Maharashtra, a state which has 24 gigawatt, has 80% of its village off the grid for a minimum time of 14 hours a day. By which state you want to talk then? Now, if I take the state of Gujarat, they'll say, Professor, are you a Modi supporter? Right? It is very reverse. 24/7 access to all the villages, whether you like it or not. In fact, there is power cut in Surat, but not in villages. So let us understand what we are going through. So that debate will come. If it is done in a small area, please go and find out why it is done. Why there is excess capacity and open access. There is a nice article. You must read Jayant Kavle, my good friend from Jindal. You don't have to go anywhere. You just open that recent issue of Inertia, December. It is a blast on the face of the country that what we have done to open access. It is the biggest farce. Every state is a violator. And regulators are not only standing, they are the Gandharis. I tell you, they must come out. And I must also mention here that Jindal, a private sector company, does not buy Chinese turbines. All their power plants are operating on BHL machines. Why a private sector operator has bought and trusted a government sector company? Please, you can go and ask them privately, but I will tell you why these machines perform and the profitability that they are getting, the results they are getting, they will only vouch for it. And I hope they continue to trust BHL and indigenous manufacturers. I am not averse to them taking a Toshiba, JSW joint venture or an L&T, but these are plants and factories which are allowed to come in India, and it is criminal waste of, okay, anybody can say anything, but I am telling you, before telecom, our ex-power minister must be tried. What was the compulsion to allow 63.4 gigawatt into the country and allow 3.5 lakh crore? You were not working on weakening the rupee and strengthening the yuan. I don't buy that argument. That was not your job. It was your job if you are a Chinese finance minister. So this is completely opportunity destroyed for BHEL and the 5 more manufacturers for India. That must be answered. This I will take up after this forum on a different platform. The RTIs are there in my file. The records are there in my file today. Because why I wanted to take a record, it's not that we did not know. We wanted those horses to come and speak and give us that figure and not to open. The power secretary has openly agreed that it is 70 gigawatt, professor, last week. हमने तो कर दिया ये. Abhi we can't undo it. My job is to see how we don't allow it again. So that is why there is a clause now in all ultra mega power that the equipment must be bought from a manufacturing facility in India, especially BTG, BOP. So I think some changes happened. So I'm very clear that now we'll correct. But definitely we should bell the cat. Why we imported so much and allowed it to happen? It was